really been a showstopper on the markets and has given returns of about 500% on a yearly basis. Now, we have done some valuations which suggest that the upside from this company, from this stock, could be another 178% the second the company gets its mining license. Just to clarify, these are completely figures that are they have not been confirmed by the management. We've got it from independent sources. And on the basis of that, the company has about estimated reserves of about 1 million ounces, which translates into 9 tons of gold. So if it mines about 3 tons of gold also, then on the basis of the price, current price of gold at about 800 per ounce, and given the cost of production at about $250 an ounce, the earnings could be at about $550 per ounce, which means that 1 million ounces could generate earnings of about $550 million. However, what's important is that we need to discount some of this and include the capital costs and discount risk. So if we discount that by 35%, then we get a valuation of about $359 million, which translates into 1430 crore. And on the basis of their outstanding shares of about 5.8 crore, we arrive at a value of about 245 per share. So that is really an upside of about 178% from the current level. However, there are certain risks involved, because there has been a lot of issue with regard to the mining licenses, and the company has not yet been able to get those licenses. So that remains, and these are also pure estimates. So what the company actually finds is what we need to look at.
Sure, of course, for our viewers who've been trying to understand the breakup of the math, those graphics will come up again on your screen through the management. But let's get across to the management in a stock that's been an outperformer 2007. Sandeep Lakhwara is joining me right here in Mumbai. Thanks, Sandeep, for being on the show. As you've been hearing Radhika point out exactly how things are working in Deccan Gold Mine's favor, I think a lot of people are trying to understand, while you're sitting on a lot of reserves or potential reserves, what is your method of unlocking it until the licenses come out?
Shelley, I think the first thing I want to comment on is that those reserves figure is absolutely an estimate, and even that estimate awaits to be justified.
You mean it could be much higher?
It could be lower, it could be much higher. The fact is that we do not know, and using a figure of 1 million ounces at this stage is really very, very preliminary. What we need to do is, once our prospecting licenses get granted, we need to go out and do some intensive drilling. Only after we do the drilling can we identify the quantum of resource, and a reserve is a far stronger statement. It should be addressed as a resource, and we would only be in a position to identify the quantum of that resource once the drilling is done.
What stage of progress of drilling are you right now?
We haven't started the intensive drilling that we want to, because the licenses that enable us to do the drilling are yet to be granted.
And of course, there's some hope that the government is looking to speed up those licenses.
That is correct, yeah. The HODA committee, which was established to look into the problems associated with companies like us in terms of granting of licenses, yes, has addressed the issue, and we are hopeful that that would be forthcoming.
Okay, now tell us, once the license comes in, okay, assuming that it's coming in this year or next year, irrespective of that, now what kind of timeline would you need to work on to start the production out there?
Let's take it on a step-by-step basis. The first thing, as I say, is drilling. Drilling could take anywhere between 6 and 18 months, depending on the area, the size of the deposit that we believe exists.
What's the area?
The area is the mineralized zone.
And how much is that?
We are working in different areas, so different areas would have different mineralized zones. So we could have a small mineralized zone, or we could have a large mineralized zone.
What would be the average?
There's no such thing as an average. One could be very small, one could be very large.
What is your largest then? Let me put it that way.
Well, the areas that we are very hopeful about are two particular areas. One is in the Hatti belt called Hiranagnur. That area stretches over 2 kilometers and it's about 50 meters wide. So that is an area that we've actually applied for a license over. The other area is Ganajur main area that also spreads out over a kilometer long and probably about 40-50 meters wide also. So within these two areas is where we target to go and do our drilling. The drilling, as I say, could take between 6 and 18 months.
After the license?
After the license. Once the drilling is completed, we evaluate the quantum of the resource, how easy it is to access it from a mining perspective,
right.
And then we go into the development of the mine. So it is still a couple of years away.
Okay, let me ask you this then. When you know that things are tough in India, now the market buzz is that you're possibly going to look at getting into mines in other countries, including Australia and some of the other places. Now, what would be the approach there?
I think the approach is very simple. We are certainly looking at acquisitions overseas, acquisitions of projects that are reasonably advanced, where perhaps the drilling has indicated a sufficient quantum of resource that could be mined.
What are the hot markets on this field?
Africa, parts of Africa would certainly be very, very hot. Australia, we would be targeting simply because we have a very close connection with Africa, with Australia. There would be areas in the Middle East.
How much would you be willing to pay for it in terms of the money that you've kept aside under the company for an acquisition?
The value of the deposit, if it is a proven deposit, depends on a country-to-country basis. There are a variety of risk factors associated, but you can look at an average of around, very difficult to quantify again. The value would be based on how easily accessible.
But give us an average. I mean, obviously a company is answerable to shareholders, and therefore you have to have money kept aside. Where's that money and how much?
No, I can tell you that. The money that we have kept aside is, at the moment on our balance sheet, the figure is in excess of about 10 crores. That may or may not be sufficient to acquire a deposit, and when we do identify something that we want to acquire, the idea would be that we would either raise more funds or borrow more funds at that time.
The whole world right now is seeing a great amount of private equity interest in mines. Are you in talks with players?
We are. We have. Sorry, was the question whether we have interest from private equity players?
Right.
Yes, there is. There is considerable interest from private equity players.
And what kind of an offloading would you be interested in doing?
Again, Shelley, these things have got to be structured based on.
But you're a listed firm, so
we are a
only
listed
an
firm, but we would make the announcements at the appropriate time when we are closer to identifying the deposit that we want to acquire. But we would be willing to, divest of some equity. The quantum of equity, it's too early to tell.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us. Good to have you. That's Sandeep Lashkar giving us this breakup, perhaps, of what to watch out for in Deccan Gold Mine in 2008. The stock 500% up YTD in 2007. Taking a break, another outperformer on the other side.